from time to time.
Okay, hi everyone. This is Shitz and Giggles with Jack Childress and friends. Unfortunately, Jack has a man cold and can't make it today, so it's just going to be me. I am Robin Ginther-Venneri. I am owner of Robin's Review and the Facebook group called Reading Between the Spines. Oh my gosh, here we go. And that is reading underscore between underscore the underscore lines underscore. And today we are going to talk to R.H. Wisenhunt. May I call you Russ?
Yeah.
Perfect. So, welcome, Russ. It's good to see you. I've read some of your books, and you are, to me, a friend of mine.
Yes.
So, ignore me if I get really weird. So, talk about your writing journey, if you would.
I what?
Your writing journey.
Oh, yes. Well, it's been pretty much my dream my whole life to be a published author, and I've written my whole life. And the first book that was published was Necrosmantia, and because I come from an extensive occult background. For about 2 decades, I was a serious occultist and practitioner, and that changed about 8 months ago. But before we get into that, my the Necrosmantia, I self-published it because I had uh, submitted it to Moon Books, and they loved it, but they said it was too big for an unknown author, that they'd have to price it too high for people to pay
Mm-hmm.
for an unknown author. So I decided to go with self-publishing with that and the Exorcist Manual and Scrying the Sacred Aether,
Okay.
or Divining the Sacred Aether, sorry.
That's okay.
And also in the process, I self-published the Chronicles of Carnage trilogy, which you've read, and I've gotten a lot of really good reviews on it. Like, all my books have really good reviews. It's just visibility has really been my only, as far as marketing goes. Uh,
Do you find
I
that's hard to market your books? Like to put yourself out
Yeah,
there and
because I never realized how many scammers there are in the publishing industry, man. It's crazy.
it is. And it's a shame that, you know, if there's scammers out there and then there's one real person, you'll never find it because you're thinking everybody's scamming you.
Oh yeah. Number one is like, "Hi, Wisenhunt." I'm like,
Yeah,
and
I'm really excited about your book. It's really nice and there's such the prose is so nice and yeah, nope. Scam, click.
I get I get that a lot, and I'm like, well, what was your favorite part? What did you think about this person that isn't even in the book?
Hmm. I love that. Just call them out.
Like, oh, they were my favorite character. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah,
okay. How come I don't have any more sales?
right. Oh, yeah.
You know,
Mm. And then I can guarantee you how many book reviews or how much exposure. Yeah, block. So you had all those books and then something changed.
I also published House of Lies before that changed.
Okay.
That was my first standalone horror novel, which had some really awesome reviews, including yours.
Hmm.
That was uh and then about 8 months ago, I make a long story short because I get kind of emotional going through the
No.
uh whole ex you know testimony.
Hmm.
But like I said, I was a serious occultist. I uh was an avid student of the works of Aleister Crowley and the Golden Dawn OTO. And I taught courses on everything from basic Wicca to ceremonial magic, uh, to even necromancy and nigromancy. And uh, I hated Christianity with a passion. Like at one point, I even had a Facebook page dedicated to your daily dose of blasphemy. And I have a very dear friend of mine uh, that I've known for pretty right around 25 years. And she was the only Christian that I even wanted to know. And she deals with a lot of stuff from her past and a lot of guilt and stuff. And I'd send a random text, just, you're not that same person anymore. Look how far you've come, just kind of uplifting her, trying to combat the negative with like bringing to light the positive things that she's accomplished, And one morning I did that and I'm sitting there typing, I'm like still half asleep, and then like as an author, I'm like after I hit send, I'm like rereading it. You know what I mean? I'm OCD about that. I'll reread it, see if I need to put star correct,
Hmm.
And when I was rereading it, it was like terminology that I didn't even use. I didn't even know, you know, and uh kind of bugged me a little bit. And as I'm going through my day, it's bugging me more and more. And I start Googling these phrases, and come to find out they were like word for word Bible verses. And I was like, what the, And so, like, that starts really eating at me, and I kind of blurted out as I'm like, kind of like bubbled to a boiling point to where it just like blurted out without even really thinking about the words. And I was like, okay, God, if you're real, prove it. And, I was expecting some kind of like abstract crap that I always made fun of people for that are like grasped at straws
Hmm.
for us, like it's a sign,
Hmm.
because you're walking by and someone says God's real, or something, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And uh and that's what I expected, but instead it was like my heart got flipped upside down. And like I have a lot. I had a lot of anger and hatred and animosity toward drug addicts because my biological father, I didn't know him because he was a heroin addict. And and they're like everywhere here, like on the street corners, like it's just out in the open anymore. I remember when I was a kid, man, the police would pull you over and mess with you if they thought you were stoned. And now they just drive right past somebody talking to invisible people, you know?
Hmm.
And anyway, it was like everyone that I saw after that, it was like I could see their soul, like just crying out for love. And I'm like, and I've been a diehard metal head since I was like 5 years old, with when my cousin Chris gave me a recorded cassette of Metallica's Kill 'Em All, and it just went heavier. From there, when I was in middle school and my friends were listening to Guns N' Roses and Metallica, they're like, "This is heavy." I'm like, "Check out Cannibal Corpse," you know? And I couldn't even listen to my music. It like made me physically nauseous, and it was so weird, like I didn't even know any like Christian music, you know. And so like I had to Google it. Like I had this, like it was like this almost like an addict's needing a fix, looking trying to find worship music. And it all this like progressed over 4 days. And by the fourth day, like it became like physically painful if I didn't at least have it playing like low in the background,
Hmm.
and then uh on the fourth night, uh that's when everything changed because I was sitting here at my desk and I was working on a book I had been writing, and I had the music playing real low in the background. And as someone that has practiced spiritual practices, you're very in tune to atmospheric shifts.
Hmm.
And I felt this shift in the atmosphere. It was like real subtle at first, but you're kind of like, what was that? You know what I mean?
Hmm. Sure.
And then it just flooded. And like, I mean, people might laugh at this or make jokes, but I'm telling you, it was like the physical manifestation of the presence of God, like flooded my room to the point that it forced me to my knees, like out of my chair. I wasn't even standing up, like because there was so much weight from the shame in that presence. And what broke me completely was the fact that there wasn't, we're talking about somebody that like like I said, I took joy in blasphemy, you know, like it, if it like was blasphemous toward Christianity, it made my day, you know. And there was no wrath or anger or judgment or condemnation in that presence. It was like love I couldn't even comprehend. And like from a God that I hated, and like the shame of that completely broke me. And, I'm gonna lie, I laid here bawling like a baby for over an hour. And it was, I stepped out of the way. I quit fighting it. And I had a friend uh ask me if I was, since I gave my life to Christ, and I spent some, like, I used to do practice a lot of goetic magic, which for people that aren't familiar with that, the Goetia is a section of the Lesser Key of Solomon that is like binding and controlling the kings, dukes, earls, princes of hell. And uh and they're like, aren't you worried about any of these, and like all these, false gods that I used to,
Mhm.
you know, and yeah, at first I would just kind of blew it off like, no, I mean, now I serve the one that created everything, including him, you know what I mean? And but the more I thought about it, I was like, really no, because if they had any power, they would have blocked that experience. I wouldn't have felt the presence of God enter my room. If they had any power, they would have shielded that.
Mhm.
But instead, they tucked their tail and ran when he entered the room, you know. So why would I, be afraid of that? But uh yeah, so and after that I reworked the uh book I had been working on and was in the editing processes of, but there was a complete rework of it, rewrite, and it ended up being kind of a metaphor for my spiritual journey, and that's the Bornless,
Mhm.
and which I just released on September 13th.
So you've changed. You've gone from non-believing to believing, and your writing has changed from, again, non-believing to believing. And so where do you go from here? You edited, re-edited that book.
Right. So like I kind of look at, I'm not dulling down like a lot of your Christian horror, like Frank Peretti and stuff like that. They're very watered down because they're for a Christian audience. Mine aren't. I see this as an opportunity to be like, you got Christian rap artists that they're geared toward to minister to people that like that kind of music, that style of music.
Mhm.
Christian metal, you got stuff that can combat against like orbit culture or uh Cannibal Corpse. So, you know what I mean? You got bands like Impending Doom and Bloodlines and For Today that just go hard, and therefore it's to minister to people that are into that style of music, and in that, and, a horror fan, like a true, like, secular horror fan isn't going to be interested in some watered down, like a 13-year-old could read it, you
Sure.
know. Uh, so there's still that, you know, super atmospheric, detailed horror, but with the message that there is a power over the darkness, and that, you know, Christ is on the throne, that, you they, he said, you will cast out demons in my name, you know, and so that's kind of the avenue. It's kind of like a ministry, uh, a ministry toward, you know, actual secular horror fans, and to where, I mean, granted, it's fiction, but the it's got truth hidden in the fiction.
Mhm. An underlying meaning.
Right, exactly.
Was it
So
hard to do that underlining meaning from your book and not like go totally horror or totally
without seeming preachy,
yeah.
yeah, because I kind of like with the Born List, you read that, starts out just a supernatural horror, kids messing around with necromancy and doing a seance in a very bad place. And then you have her two uh, influences. You've got Raven, that's a Wiccan, and her best friend, and her aunt Silva is a high priestess, and she's like saying, well, it's this, it's this entity from this ancient pagan mythology. And and then you have Tiffany, who's like the lukewarm, watered down, quiet. She don't talk about her faith Christian, and then God starts calling her slowly through dreams and visions. And uh so I don't think it is very preachy, because it happens in a slow progression throughout the story. It's almost it's not in the forefront. It's kind of happening to side characters that become a main character at the climax.
Are you thinking about staying in that world and expanding to a second book or anything like that?
I've considered it. I think those would be a little more, if I were to do that, those would end up evolving more into a uh like, there's a Christian influence in them because of
Hmm.
how everything worked out with uh the Bornless,
Sure.
but I've toyed with the idea of continuing, like a continuation of the group, you know
Hmm.
because there are, like, you know Raven and Silva witnessed what they witnessed, but it wasn't okay, now I'm changing my beliefs. I try to write it very realistic, and that's, you know not something that happens on a normal basis, is, somebody and just abandoning what, I mean, I did, but
Hmm.
uh on a normal basis, that it's a gradual thing. And I've considered, making maybe a trilogy or something where that evolves. But right now I'm more focusing on, I've got two projects going. One, I'm working on The Occultist and the Cross, which is, it's kind of a two-part. It's on one hand, it's my testimony, and on as like a memoir type side of it, but it's going to be in depth, going into these practices that are, steeped in the occult, but they're packaged in this like harmless, self-help, self-evolution, new agey crap that is just rampant today, like astrology for one, whenever like I was an in-depth studier, and practitioner. And whenever you get really down into it, there is a fallen angel that rules over each of the zodiacs. And so when you say I'm an Aries or I'm a Cancer, you're proclaiming that this fallen angel has authority over your life and what happens in your life, and even it has control over your personality traits. You know, uh, like even like yoga is huge right now, and they don't even realize that these asanas, they were their whole purpose is each asana, which is a posture in yoga, and each asana is a their way of invoking this demonic goddess into their body. And so, like, they don't even realize they're like literally doing an invocation ritual when they're doing these uh, asanas. And like, so it's going to be quite the project. It's not going to be one that's done in like a year. So, you know what I mean?
Are you going
It's,
to be writing other stories?
huh?
Are you going to be writing? Oh, sorry. Are you going to be writing other stories than those two? Do you have some?
Yes, the other project I have, that's just one. The other project I have is another uh fictional horror called Egregore, and it's based off of the it's a practice within the occult, where you can create a spiritual, like an astral servitor, uh, and it's Caitlin is this she's a devout Wiccan, and she gets violently attacked on her way home from work one night, and she decides to create a thought form protector. And then people start getting, it becomes possessive, and somebody, like, take for instance, somebody cuts her off on the road, or somebody tries to get her in trouble for work, and they end up in the hospital,
Oops.
like way too far
Mm.
for, somebody cuts her off and they die in a fiery car crash, kind of, way too far for it to just be a protector. And she starts to question, like, and she tries banishing rituals, it's not getting rid of it. And then her father dies, and so she's forced to go back home, to help, like, with the estate handling, and the funeral and all that. And she reconnects with her estranged sister that they haven't spoken in years, because her sister is a devout believer. And then you start getting the Christian influence in there, and she's like, no, and that also gives me an opportunity in dialogue for Caitlin to throw out all these lies they have running around to try to that I used to believe, you know,
Mhm.
and all the arguments like against the validity of scripture, as far as like, oh, they didn't it wasn't until the Council of Nicaea that they started saying Jesus was divine, you know, but they just made a discovery of that like home church kind of deal, uh that it it was, and they had like engravings for the different people that uh paid for different parts of it, and right next to like the communion altar it said dedicated to God Jesus Christ, and that was from the first century, you know
Mhm.
and like that isn't even what they discussed in at the Council of Nicaea. And you have all these and so it gives me the ability for some apologetics within the book without it being preachy, because it's just dialogue
Mhm.
between the two, her throwing these out and her sister shutting them down because she's knowledgeable in the areas, and I
So,
don't want to give away how it turns out, but
yeah, I don't want to do that. When's that coming out?
I'm aiming for spring of next year.
That's not far.
No, it's not. It's
Are you?
creeping up on me.
Yeah. Are you
It might end up being early summer. Who knows?
push it back a little? Yeah.
Right.
Are you gonna stick with the horror genre,
Hmm.
and not do any other really like I guess horror and paranormal, but I mean any other genre like romance or urban
I've
fantasy?
never,
Mm,
like, be honest, I wouldn't even, the only thing on that aspect that I've kind of, something I've wanted to write, but it's going to take some input from other family members and stuff. I was raised by my great grandparents, and like we're talking about a notebook type couple here.
mhm.
And I'd like to write like the story of their life, because like it's phenomenal. Like, but I just know bits and pieces from being told growing up, like I know, like whenever during the Great Depression, my great grandfather, they had children, they lived up in the mountains in Washington, and he had to walk back and forth to work down into the town. And he worked like 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. And he got paid in a big bag of dried pinto beans and a bag of cornmeal so he could feed his family, and it blew my mind, hearing my grandma talk about it. And I'd ask my grandpa, I mean, how could you even physically do that? Like, you know,
Mhm.
because she was like, pretty much he'd get home, play with the kids for a few minutes, doze in the chair while she made him something to eat. And then it was time for him to start walking back.
Oh my golly.
And he said he got to a point to where he could sleepwalk. He would pretty much sleepwalk to and from work.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, how would you physically do that? And he said something very true. He said, you won't know what you're capable of until you have a family that depends on you to survive.
Yes, for sure.
You know, and I remember growing up and like they weren't that like that old couple that have just coexists now. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
they still acted like they were dating, you know, and that's probably why none of my relationships have worked out because I got such a high standard growing up seeing it. I'm like, well, this ain't what I saw true love as.
Mm-hmm.
And my grandpa used to say it was like the key. He's like he said, you don't ever think that she's yours. He said, even after 50 years, she ain't yours because she can still walk out that door. It's your job to make sure that thought never crosses her mind. So
Wow.
even he's like, there's going to be days you don't feel like it, but you have to try just as hard every single day, work just as hard as you did to get that first date. You know, said that's your job. You're a protector and you're a provider, but that ain't just physically and monetarily, it's emotionally as well.
Mm-hmm.
So but it's got to be a two-way street. You got to find somebody that uh pursues you in that same way. You know,
Tell me about your kids. Do they let you write? Or do they give you
uh,
ideas? Or they bug you?
well, I have Abby and Odie full time, and they're my 3 and 5 year old. Well, almost 4. Odie will be 4 on the 15th. And I write in the evenings. I work full time through the day, and then my evenings are theirs. We
Mm-hmm.
get home, I play with them, then I make dinner, and then I'll play with them some more, and it's baths and bedtime, and then it's daddy's time. And I also have a 17-year-old daughter, Via, and a 19-year-old daughter, Anna, and they stay with their mom. I don't see them near as much as I'd like to, but they have an autistic little brother that uh they help their mom with while she's working and everything. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't, I don't really push it because I understand that's a necessity, you know. So
That's amazing that you think that way and you want to help like that and not hurt or cause a problem, I guess is what I'm saying.
well, I understand, that I really understand now as a single parent, how difficult it is to do without any in-home help. And like, and that's with kids that don't have, you know, special needs and, that need special attention and stuff like that.
Has your teenagers read any of your books?
But no, Anna said that like I thought that they'd be really into them because they're super into that show Supernatural,
Hmm.
and there are aspects of it that kind of go in line with that fan base, with the hunting and fighting supernatural and cryptoids and stuff like that. But uh and it was like she was like, I guess my she was like, I don't want to think about like she says, I was like, it's a made up mythology and everything, and she's like, it would scare me because Supernatural is made for TV. It's watered down. It's for teenagers. I mean,
Hmm.
granted, it has a. I liked uh, uh 1 second real quick. Guy. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Uh, uh, where was I? Oh yeah. It's really watered down and mine is
Scary.
right, very descriptive and not uh sorry, I'm getting distracted by children. My brother's helping keep them occupied, but quite energetically.
They want to see what daddy's doing, that's all.
Uh,
So, tell me where we can find you. I guess your social media. I
I'm
did share your
uh
author page on Facebook.
yeah, I RH Wisenhunt on all socials. And well, I say all, there's all kinds now, but most Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and X. It's if you search at on TikTok, it's RH Wisenhunt Books.
Hmm.
But on all the other socials, it's just should just be the at RH Wisenhunt.
Hmm.
Should hmm,
And my group. You're in my group.
yes, in your
Reading
group,
Between the
yes.
Spines. You could always find them there.
Yeah, you can always find me in reading in between the spines or reading between the spines. Uh, which that's an awesome group. I love it.
Thank you. I try to keep the spammers and the scammers and everybody out. So it really,
I try, I try to uh be involved, but it's so hard to try to keep. I'm even horrible at promoting my books and stuff online because I'm just spread so thin. Like, if I focused on that, wouldn't even have time to write, because I just get that little window at night after the kids are in bed and I get to write until I gotta go to bed because I gotta get up at 5:30 in the morning and get ready for work.
that's how I am. I do it late at night, early in the morning.
Uh,
The kids.
do what?
I do that early in the morning or late at night before I get my grandkids,
Right.
because you can't do anything whenever they're, let's see, three, almost two. and then 2 months. So I'm lucky to figure out what I'm doing in the next moment.
Oh, right. I'm very right there with these two.
Mm,
Uh, oh, and also you can uh connect with me if anybody's in the Columbia, Missouri area. They should definitely come. Where is it? Okay, they come check out DPC Church,
there you go.
Destiny Point Church. Yeah, I got that. Uh, uh, Destiny Point Church on Vandiver. It's amazing. Pastor Josh Palmer, I really found an awesome home there. And him and his wife are, and the other pastors are just amazing. They've blessed us so much.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Um, Before we go, I remember you doing a Spotify.
Yes, I started, I haven't done one. I, on the podcast, also titled The Occultist and the Cross. Uh, that I don't know. I just feel like it was passionate but dry. I need like a co-host or something to, and because otherwise, it just to me, it just sounds like it's just me sitting there talking to a mic. There's
Mhm.
so that's just kind of been put on hold. I mean, those that are interested can definitely stream the episodes that are on Spotify. It's on Spotify, iTunes, a bunch of different ones.
Mhm.
Uh, but I usually just have send people to Spotify. Yeah. Uh, but and it's also on Amazon, the Amazon Music or something like that. It's
Mhm.
on Amazon,
Whatever they have.
right?
Yeah, I have so
Yeah.
much.
Um, yeah, I can send you the link that has where it says listen on and has all the different.
That would be cool. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
This recording will be on in the file of Reading Between the Spines. I also will give you a copy um,
Awesome.
to do with it, wherever you want it. I will also have it on, it's taken me a while, but Robin's Review dot info. So it's going to be out there. Hopefully, everybody will be listening to it.
So that uh uh,
All right. Well, I will stop recording now. Thank you so much for your giving me how many minutes of your, you know,
oh yeah.
small part of your life on a Saturday.
I've really enjoyed it. Thank you for having me on.
Well, thank you. You did great.
Thank you.